Welcome to the Soul Success Summit, where we share guidance on how to succeed on the goal line and the soul line. My name is Katja Rusanen, and I'm your host. I love helping coaches and healers shine their light, share their gifts, and succeed on purpose. I'm here with Blue Marsden, who is the Hay House author of Soul Plan, a widely translated spirituality bestseller. He is an international teacher of contemporary counseling and spirituality and founder of Holistic Healing College, which has branches in London and Tokyo, and has for the last 20 years taught a modern counseling training that integrates traditional counseling and psychotherapy methods with the latest healing modalities. Also, Blue holds degrees in philosophy and psychoanalysis and continues postgraduate study in neuroscience and psychology. He has since a teenager been involved in the world of healing and energy medicine. He has studied with shamans from different traditions, receiving initiations from Tibetan Buddhist lamas, as well as instructions on Zen meditation in Japan. A long-time Qigong teacher, he conducts an annual silent retreat incorporating yoga, Qigong, and meditation. And Blue is also the creator of Soul Transformation Therapy, a modern therapy, coaching, and healing system used by counselors, healers, doctors, and coaches in many countries. Let's find more about Blue and his work. So welcome to the Soul Success Summit, Blue. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Katja. It's wonderful to be with you. I always enjoy spending time with you, as you know.
Oh, thank you. And I am so blessed to have you because you have been my teacher in Holistic Healing College and love sharing your work because I know how powerful it is. And I'm curious now because you mentioned that you got into healing and energy medicine when you were just a teenager. Can you share a little bit how you got on your path?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to share that with you. I'll give you a relatively condensed version of this. So yes, it's true. I had a relatively difficult, you could call it traumatic childhood. But there was some desire within to try and improve things on some level. And I was very fortunate to come across a book on yoga when I was a teenager, which I started practicing pretty diligently. That began to open things up for me. And also, while I was a teenager, I lived in London and not so far from the Hare Krishna temple, which is in Soho in the center of London. And I used to go up there with my friends at the weekend, and we'd see all these people dancing around. And on the one hand, we were sort of, as teenagers were, you'd be laughing at it. But I used to stay behind sometimes and go and have a meal with them and talk to some of the people there, some of the people who've been there a bit longer, talking about some of their philosophy. And that opened up an interest, that and the yoga opened up an interest in Indian philosophy for me. And I became very interested in Advaita Vedanta. And I think through doing that, studying at a young age, that helped me with my traditional or conventional studies in school. And it gave me an interest in philosophy in general. So I continued on a path of philosophy and yoga. I studied philosophy in university, but carried on with my kind of healing interests, which were developing more and more. Because when you get into that type of thing, I got into Qigong as well. When you get into that sort of thing, especially when you're a bit younger, it often opens up, a lot of channels and different abilities which need to be channeled in some way or other. But often, as I'm sure many of your listeners will know, people begin to appear in your life who are guides to help you and you find your community, you find your tribe. So I had two, in a way. One was the more conventional academic side, and I got into that. I began to enjoy that, not so much when I was at school, but when I went to university, and continue with postgraduate studies in counseling and then psychoanalysis. But at the same time, I was meeting all these healers and people in the world of kind of martial arts, yoga, qigong, and Reiki was just beginning to sort of like emerge at that time. So I learned that as well and met some interesting people through that particular modality. And it just became sort of fairly natural for me to kind of move into the world of counseling and psychotherapy. I was quite young, so I would find ways of connecting with young people. I used to work with young people who were having anxiety, experiencing anxiety. I used to work with singers and musicians. I used to use my hypnotherapy. I learned hypnotherapy as well. And I used to target that or market that towards singers and writers. And by the time I was in my mid-20s, I had a fairly eclectic practice where, on the one hand, I'd be meeting people for maybe the hypnotherapy and the creativity. I'd be doing some conventional psychotherapy, where I'd be seeing clients on a more long-term basis. And then I was carrying out various healing modalities and beginning to meet people who had unusual phenomena happening with them, people who are having, shall we say, spiritual awakenings, opening up. I'd had some unusual processes myself. And I think what happens very often is you begin to sort of like attract people who are going through some of the same things that you're going through, or maybe you've just been through. So yeah, it was very interesting, but I began to recognize that there were different aspects missing in each of the different modalities. So, for example, the psychotherapy side could be great for psychological problems, and counseling was very good for allowing people to express what's been going on for them. But sometimes they're missing that kind of heart and intuitive connection.
Mm.
And then, some of the people I met in the healing modality, they often had that kind of real intuitive connection, but they had problems maybe with things like boundaries, some of the things that were pretty much straightforward for the psychotherapy world. Those were things that weren't really covered in the healing modalities. And then, energetically, there could be things going on for them, because a lot of people who are drawn to healing and therapy, as might describe themselves as empaths or very, very sensitive people. And I was finding that, I could put myself in that category, but through some of the practices like the Qigong, I'd learned to kind of ground, and I was finding that was very useful to teach that to some of the healing people. And basically there were all these kind of mixed modalities. And I thought, what if we can sort of like put them all together? And after I'd been in practice for about 10 years, I began to put on courses which would be geared at one particular group. So introducing people who are interested in counseling and psychotherapy, introducing them to healing techniques, whether it be sound healing, different healing techniques I put on. And then for people who were doing things like Reiki and healing, I would put on some introduction to counseling workshops, and help them to learn some of the kind of basic questions that help clients to open up, that, were pretty standard in counseling, help to teach them about boundaries and different kinds of questions that you can use with clients. And then it just became a complete no-brainer to create a course out of this. And that's going back 20 years now, when we started our initially was a holistic healing practitioner diploma, then became spiritual counseling diploma. And what we do is we train people in counseling, but we also helped them to integrate a number of healing modalities. And the ones that I've found and observed over the years are the most effective. So we'll bring in things like energy psychology, which can be great for certain types of conditions. Some basic healing techniques to help people when they've got blockages. And then we bring in coaching as well, because there's a certain time at which a client may move from having worked on some of those kind of deeper issues, but they're still stuck because they've got used to being in a kind of stuck place. And that's where the coaching and expanding and getting people, to carry out certain tasks which take them slightly out of their comfort zone will be really useful. So, yeah, it's about helping people get to a point where they can be a very versatile practitioner, and they can meet the client on whatever level they're at, and decide on, okay, how do we find out what is the core issue? And once we've got that, what we're going to do about it. And sometimes that means doing more than one thing. So I'm very much for people having, a good mix of techniques, because sometimes in order to, move on with, for example, some coaching, you've got to clear some trauma first. And sometimes in order to, really get the most out of some healing modality, you need to bring in something like parts work and help integrate our different subpersonalities.
Yes.
So that's where I've got to, Katja. I mean, that's a very very quick and swift description.
Yeah.
But is that the sort of thing you were wondering?
Totally. It's fascinating. I always love hearing people's stories, how they got to do what they do and how the journey involves. And one of the things you mentioned was how you brought in these different aspects into your trainings. And I love that. That was one of the reasons as well why I was drawn to Holistic Healing College, the variety of things. And but what really got me in was one particular module that you had about soul plan. That was the thing, like, okay, that's my school. I need to go there because I need to learn soul plan. And later on, then you wrote also a book about this. And another thing that I love, and you're going to talk more today, is the soul transformation therapy that came later on. But think about I found Holistic Healing College about 11 years ago. So time flies. Like that was my first thing. When I really stepped into coaching, I was like, I need to do the work in the world, and found Holistic Healing College. And could you explain a little bit, because soul plan and soul transformation therapy, and what they are, if people are now like, they might be like me, curious after hearing the name, but what are they?
So, I've described that there's a number of different modalities within our course, and they're all things that I think are essential for a modern practitioner. A practitioner who wants to deal with a wide remit of clients. So we've got soul transformation therapy now, which really condenses all of these modalities, and I'll give a little demonstration or a little sort of healing intervention for some of your listeners shortly. But that's linked to the soul plan, which is the theme of the book I wrote for Hay House. And soul plan is a system which looks at a person's overall life purpose, their challenges in life in both the worldly and the spiritual aspect. And it's based on the vibration of the letters in a person's name. So I studied, I knew we needed to have some kind of system in there to, really get a deeper idea of what's going on with a client at a deep level. And we've got all these fantastic things around, like astrology and numerology and Enneagram, human design, and all many different modalities. And I'd looked at many of them. I was particularly interested in Enneagram and also in Chinese astrology, because when I was younger, I'd also got into Qigong, and looking at the things like the I Ching and Chinese astrology really goes hand in hand with that practice. So I would often use that as a modality, but I was also interested in Kabbalah. And I was also really drawn to the Jewish mystical tradition. It was another thing, actually, funnily enough, since I was a teenager, that I was really obsessed with. And I was fortunate enough to come across a fairly obscure system, which, when I initially came across it, it was almost a little bit sort of biblical at first, which worked with the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And this is the same thing that we use in the soul transformation therapy. And it's got some links to tarot, which is why in soul transformation therapy we use cards to diagnose people's issues. But in the soul plan, and that's the book I wrote, it's all about looking at the name and the vibration of the letters of the name in order to create a star for each individual, a bit like this one. You can see at the back of me, that's what we call star of creation. And you can see there's two triangles, one pointing down towards the earth and one pointing up towards the heaven. The little symbols in each of the different triangles are related to different aspects. You could call them karmic aspects. So each one of these 6 aspects is you could call it a karmic aspect of life. Karmic in the sense of something that we go through, not in any kind of sense of punishment, but more in something that needs to be experienced, or something we experience. But some of the quadrants are more challenging than the others. So this one, which I think I'm pointing to, it's always difficult when you're doing it on a screen like this. But this one would relate to the worldly challenges. So whatever someone has there is going to be a little bit more difficult for them initially anyway to experience. And then there's ones like the one at the bottom, that's something, call that the talents. It's still karmic experience in that something people do experience, but it can be a little bit easier to access, and it can often be connected with some real ability that a person has, or they can access quite easily. Then there's one at the top, that's the challenges. And it's the same with the spiritual as well. The worldly aspect is all about us integrating into society. Usually takes about 30 odd years to do that. And then the spiritual, it's always there, but initially, and that's the upward triangle, initially it's more in our kind of inner life. But as we connect, as we get into our service roles, as people become, as I think your group's called, light workers, they'll connect more and more with this upward triangle and begin to access some of these energies that are in the upward part of the triangle. And this is something that we can read, and the name is a clue for us. Names are very important. Names are how we identify ourselves, and they're also the identity that is given to us. And there'll be some different sorts of ways of thinking about this, but some people would say, oh, well, it's like the incarnating soul. They telepath that name to the mother, and the mother knows the child's going to be called that particular name. It's the whole name that's important, so it's like the middle name as well, whatever's put on the birth certificate that we'd use in order to work out the soul plan, but it generates a pattern like this with one in the middle. The one in the middle is like our, we call it soul destiny. It's like our core energy. This is what we're really wanting to get to. And all the others are like petals. You can fold them in and they become that one that's there in the middle. That's the core energy for someone. So each of the symbols have a different meaning. So for example, that one there, you can see that it's like we call it a link in the chain. And it's like a link and then two other links joined to it. So that one's all about drawing people together, like-minded people, bringing them together in order to help them unite internally and with each other. So there'll be a different theme. Other people will have a theme in their soul destiny, which might be all about, connecting with their abundance and sharing abundance. With other people, it might be about totally connecting with their creativity. Yeah. With other people, it might be about totally grounding themselves in the world and sharing spiritual energy in society. So that everyone on our course learns, as you did as well, and then you can bring it into your counseling, or as you would into your coaching practice. And even before you meet your clients, you're going to have a pretty good idea what's going on with them once you learn to read the information from these symbols. But the symbols themselves, have a lot of information. They were channeled by Frank Alper, who was a metaphysician from the last century, who created this method, this gematria method for working this out. Although the actual deeper meanings come from an ancient book called the Sefer Yetzirah, which is an ancient text which has had a big influence. It's not that well known, but it's had a big influence on Kabbalah, tarot, Western magic, etc. So that's what we'll use to find out what's going on with people. And then a lot of our students as well will learn the soul transformation therapy, which is a system where we use these symbols to find out what's blocking you at this moment in your life. And once we get that information, then we've got 7 different ways in which we can help the people.
And you promised actually a little taster of the soul transformation therapy for our audience now. So just want to invite everyone to take as comfortable position as you can and get ready to this amazing demonstration as Blue will share with us.
Okay, so I'm making the assumption that people who are drawn to listening and viewing with us today, by the nature of the people who are going to be interested, I'm imagining that some of your coaches, healers, people who are really wanting to kind of reconnect with your soul and share your gifts in the world. Nice. So let's have a look and see if there's something that we could maybe work on to heal, should we say heal, clear, maybe accelerate for you. Maybe it's something that's there for you already, but we can have the intention today to maybe even put that even more online for you today. But what we'll call it a separation pattern, something that's separating you, either maybe for some of you it's a big blockage, or maybe for some of you it's just a little thing that's blocking you on your path right now. And the assumption we make in soul transformation therapy is that anything that's creating separation for you is what we call a polarity, because when we're totally in unity, one of the features is we're feeling, or we realize our true reality, which is connection with everybody and everything. But when we're experiencing issues in the world, it's, and this is an assumption of soul transformation therapy, it's because we experiencing ourselves as a separate individual. And one of the features of being a separate individual, feeling separated from other people and everything, is we experience things in terms of polarities. So polarity would be, for example, war and peace. That's a big one. It's something we see in the world. You know, we see it, unfortunately, you know, there's wars on at the moment. Probably most people here will be aware of the situation in Ukraine. But there's, you know, there's wars and disagreements all over the world. But even on a more minor level, people are having disagreements with friends, families, workers. And this, in terms of soul transformation therapy, means they're experiencing the polarity of war and peace. Another polarity would be slavery and mastery. And this is when you're experiencing yourself in a situation, for example, where you're in a role where you're very subservient and you're being oppressed by another. Could be the other way around. You know, you might be the oppressor. But again, there's this kind of polarity, this kind of balance of a slave or a master, which appears in our reality. Another one would be wealth and poverty. You know, it's a relative thing, but two different scales, wealth and poverty. Anyway, we want to find out which one is being experienced by the listeners today in such a way as is blocking them from being, you know, their full potential, should we say. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin to just take these cards and drop them down one by one. And I'm going to ask you, Katja, to tell me, you're going to tune into the group.
Yes.
As a surrogate, and you're going to tune in and tell me when to stop, and we'll find the polarity which is blocking people.
All right.
Okay, so here we go.
This one.
This one, okay. So what we got? Oh, right, we've got wisdom and folly. Wisdom and folly. So this is an interesting one. In order to become wise, we have to make mistakes. And, you know, once I start to work on this, I begin to immediately to receive some information. And what I'm receiving here is that the people who are with us today, who are viewing this, we've got some very wise souls. But in order to connect with that wisdom, they've had to make mistakes along the way. And some of those mistakes have been at an unconscious level. And if we have a look at the symbol, you can see that it's like what we call a coil spring. It's like something that's particularly resilient. It's almost bouncing up and down, giving you a kind of suspension in order to deal with the hard emotional knocks that we experience on this planet. So when this comes up, this indicates that there's some lesson around wisdom and folly, but it's particularly related to emotional sensitivity. So there's some issue for those watching today around emotional sensitivity, something that needs to be healed. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing with this one is it's very much an unconscious thing, something that's happening on an unconscious level. And as a soul transformation therapist, what I need to do is I need to kind of get to the bottom of it and find out a little bit more and see what else is going on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose another card now, or ask you to choose another card, and see if we can go a little bit deeper into what might be actually blocking people. So let's go. Here we go. You tell me when to stop, Katja. So going now.
This one.
This one?
Yeah.
How interesting. Right. So this one is 4 arrows coming down into a physical space. 4 arrows are representing spiritual energies. And these are spiritual energies which are coming down. Well, it's into a box, but that means into a physical space. So that means spiritual energy coming down into a place, a business. And this is very much the energy of someone who sets up a kind of spiritual center, spiritual retreat, a spiritual business, or a spiritual product, like a book. So this could be representing some of your listeners who are wanting to maybe write a book, or to open a retreat, or to open a spiritual business, or to develop and expand their spiritual business, and let other people come in and experience the spiritual energies which are coming down for them. Yeah. Okay. So that's the card that's come up. That means there's some little difficulty around that, something that's blocking us. Now, in soul transformation therapy, I created a chart which gives information. When you've got the cards come up, you look at the polarity and you look at the card, and it will tell you there's about 144 different possible issues, main issues that clients have. So I'm just going to have a look now and see for this one, with the arrows coming down to the box, if I put that together with the polarity, which was this wisdom and folly, let's just see what comes up for people. Okay. So what we've got is something called fear of exposure, a pattern called fear of exposure. And this one comes up so much for therapists. It's a big one. This is all about, we want to share our gifts in the world, but there's some like fear there that we've had. And I think, many of us have been through that, who step into the world of therapy. It's that, putting yourself above the parapet, claiming your spirituality, saying, look, this is what I do. I'm here to be of service. I'm here to heal. And of course, there's all the, unconscious fears that come along with that. So we have, concerns around judgments from other people. And there can be the kind of ancestral and sort of, you could call it past life stuff about, times when you've been burned to the stake for doing this kind of work or whatever. There'll be different things that are affecting people there. So that's the issue. That's just so that that's what's been going on for you, which might be holding you back from moving forward. Many of you will be moving forward, but if we can work on this and clear this, and you may have even done some work on this, but this is another little level we've got to tick off today. It's going to help you be even more of who you are. And for some people, this might be that domino or that linchpin that needs to be healed or cleared today in order for you to really move on big time. So, as I mentioned, there's 7 different ways that we can work with this in soul transformation therapy. Sometimes we need to work like a shaman, and we need to do a soul retrieval. Sometimes we need to work with archetypes and parts. So we need to do some parts and archetypes work with different subpersonalities. Sometimes we need to work more on the psychological level and work on our beliefs. And Other times we need to work on our boundaries, so boundary issues, our control issues. Sometimes it's trauma in the body, and we have a method where we work on releasing trauma and old stuck sadness and other emotional energies that get stuck in the body. But I think what I'm going to do today is, what I'm feeling is I want to do something called core balancing with you. And this is where we clear some of those, you could call it energetic cords and attachments that may be going on at more of an unconscious level to maybe people, things, ideas, which are no longer serving you. So I'd like to do a healing meditation for the clients for this. So this is a little bit, for some people who might have learned to cut ties, this is a little bit like that, although we call it core balancing because we're connected to everything ultimately. So it's more a matter of balancing those energies.
Yes, that sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. So this is where you sit back and just take a comfortable position and close your eyes for a moment now while I guide you through this. So what I'm going to ask people to do is just to maybe remember a good memory of a time when you're feeling really good, feeling really relaxed. And if nothing comes to mind, then just imagine yourself in a beautiful place. Step into your body and enjoy that feeling of relaxation. Notice where it is. Notice whereabouts in the body you feel most relaxed right now. There might be some parts which don't feel so relaxed, other parts which do. Notice where you feel most relaxed right now. Give that part of you a color and let that color spread around you. Let that color spread all around your body, and then sense that there's a glow on the outer aspect of you, on your energy field, all around you, above your body, below your body, around your body, sphere of light. And this is a light of protection, healing, and harmony. And imagine now you surrounded by that light, that you're floating like a star, floating like a star in the universe, surrounded by other lights and other configurations, some representing people in your life, some representing ideas, beliefs, things that have come from the past, maybe groups or organizations, schools, workplaces that you're being, all represented in the space. And many of these people or structures, energetic configurations ultimately have attachments to you in different ways. Some of these attachments are healthy, but some of these attachments are not so healthy, and some are linked to old ideas and old fears, and maybe even attached to people from this time or even from times gone by who've suppressed you, oppressed you in different ways, or limited you. But now it's time to connect with the full power of your soul and let go forever of these attachments, of the unhealthy attachments. So I'd like you to imagine now that the sphere around you begins to spin. That's right, it's beginning to spin, and as it does, it's severing any unhealthy cords and attachments. They're disappearing, they're dropping off. That's right. There may be some thing to say, letting go, even forgiveness. Doesn't need to be. That's up to you. But just allow that spin to continue now. until eventually it's beginning to slow down. As it does, I'd like you to repeat these words with me. You can repeat them in your mind, you can repeat them out loud. It's up to you. I now break any ties, vows, or commitments that I have made. I now break any ties, vows, or commitments that I have made. Anyone or any intelligence in my field has made. Anyone or anyone in any intelligence in my field has made. With any people, thought forms, intelligences, constructions, ideas, or energies. You just need to have that intention now, that you're breaking any ties or commitments that you've had. Anything, I break any ties or commitments that have held me in limitation. I break any ties or commitments that have held me in limitation. I claim my mastery. As a physical and spiritual being integrated, as a physical and spiritual being integrated on the earth plane, to share the gifts of my connection, to share the gifts of my connection. That's right, the connection to your soul, connection to the full power of your soul, the connection to everything. See an image of yourself in front of you right now. Look into your eyes and tell yourself, I love you, I forgive you, you are blameless, you are free. I love you, I forgive you, you are blameless, you are free. Good, and the sphere begins to come to a stop now. And just feel that light around you, within you, just expanding. And just notice how you feel light and you feel free. So you just begin to feel that light is integrating right into you, right into your physical being. There's a light within you, a light without you. Feel that light coming right into your being, right into your bones, right into your marrow. As it does, that'll begin to ground you and that'll begin to bring you back to the room. And just know that that strong aura remains around you now. And just have a look around. You probably feel things maybe look a little bit brighter. You may feel a little bit more full, a little bit more truly who you are. Good, thank you.
Thank you, Blue. That was so uplifting, so beautiful. And the whole session, I think that will help so many, because fear of being exposed is a huge thing. And also when you shared the card in the beginning, the wisdom and fullness, like so many times we are afraid to share our gifts because, well, sometimes they are a little bit different than what we are used to. So it's just beautiful, beautiful work here today.
Yeah. Well, I think you've got a wonderful ability to draw like-minded people to you. But, as we know, we sometimes are a little bit different, people who are drawn to this, but that's something to be celebrated.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And that's...
Now, I'd like to just get the cards out once more now, yes, Katja, because whenever there's been a healing, and we've all joined in a healing, I sense, beyond time and space, whenever we do this, because some people will listen to this later, but there's a sense of, who's here. And, one of the things I enjoyed was that by the nature of some of the people who've been drawn to join us in this, that's actually accelerated and strengthened the power of what we've just done now. And the healing's taken place. So when there's healing's taken place, there's always a gift that comes with that, because whatever we've been through, we've learned something from that. And that's what we were doing. We were learning, moving from folly to wisdom. So there's a gift here for us. And I would like to let people know what has been healed today. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go through the cards again 3 more times. But the first thing is we need to find out what has been healed today. So you tell me when to stop.
That one.
This one.
Mm-hmm.
The flow of spirit and expansion. This is all about our ability to flow with our spirit, but to be a wise guide to others through the mistakes, learning from the mistakes that we've made. So this is like the energies of an explorer. You can imagine someone who's an explorer going up the mountain. And you, as in everyone here, you've been that person who's been exploring, going up the mountain. Sometimes you've gone onto one edge and found you can't go any further that way. Sometimes you ended up going down and you've gone into a bit of a rabbit hole. Sometimes you've come across a block in somewhere or other and you've had to move around it. But gradually you've been going up. And now you can look down and you can see others who are coming up, and you become that guide, that wise guide. So this is the wise guide to others. Mm-hmm. So that's what's been healed, your ability to truly do that and to own that and to feel good about that and to be free to do it and not care about anyone's judgment or not have to fear any irrational, unconscious fears, because you're free to do that now. That's your birthright. Okay, so that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So next one, we have to find out what we need to do more of in order to really capitalize on any healing. This is where you need to kind of really use it now. And this will give us a clue what we need to do going forward. So you tell me when to stop.
That one.
This one. The divine on the inside and the divine on the inside. This is called soul creativity. And this is all about being really creative, but in a soul way, and trusting your gut instinct and going with your gut instinct. So this is indicating to me that there's going to be some opportunities arise. And what we need to do is we need to take those opportunities. The opposite of this one is being risk adverse. But this one is trusting your gut instinct. If something feels right and it's coming up for you now, know that it's for your expansion. That's the expansion. So trust your gut instinct. That's the one thing that I'd ask you to take away from this. Trust your gut instinct and look for some opportunities, because I suspect there's going to be some opportunities arising for you now that you've cleared space, cleared some things that were holding you back. If you do that, this is the future. So this is the tarot bit, if you like, telling you your future. This is why I become a fortune teller, telling you your future. I need to get my hat, don't I? Anyway, Katja, you tell me when to stop.
Yeah, it's the first one.
First one. Okay. Beautiful. Love this one. This is love and knowledge. This is love and knowledge. And this is representing someone who is a spiritual teacher So this is representing you as a spiritual teacher, someone who gains lots of knowledge, and then they share that out. And see these two lines in the middle, it's like representing expansion. This, in the Hebrew, all of these symbols relate to one of the Hebrew letters, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And this one, Lamed, which is number 12 in the Hebrew, if you look at the Hebrew glyph, it's higher, it's taller than all the others, because it's representing one who's expanding, or something that's expanding up beyond limits. So this is indicating that there's going to be a lot of spiritual expansion for you now. Trust your gut instinct. And, you know, this is what you can step into. Love and knowledge. And it's beautiful, loving energy where you're gaining lots of knowledge, but you're sharing it, and you're really enjoying sharing that with other people. So whether you do that for your spiritual businesses, your centers, your books, or just connecting with people and just, you know, helping everyone you meet, or doing something to help people on a daily basis, one way or another, it's something that you can step into now.
Wow. I think that's a really great news for everyone as well, like really allowing yourself to shine your light and share your gifts and succeed, because that's what's calling you from your heart. So taking those steps and believing and trusting that gut, trusting that calling. So this was super, super beautiful. So thank you, Blue, for the supporting us this way today. And as we are wrapping up here, I just want to ask, do you have a special final message that you would like to share?
I'll just see if something comes through. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just like to share that, you know, from my soul to yours, that, you know, even though we haven't met in person, I just like to say that on a certain level, I recognize you and honor who you are and the work that you do. And my wish for you is that as you share your love and knowledge, and as your heart expands, you'll magnetically attract more like-minded people to you, so that they can share in the wonderful gifts that you have, and you get to express your full love and potential.
Wow, that was beautiful. I'm actually almost in tears here. It really touched my heart, that message. So thank you so much, Blue, for your time today and all the work that you do in the world.
Thank you, Katja. It's always great to spend time with you.
And thank you for watching the Soul Success Summit. I'm sending you loads of light and love. Stay well and stay tuned for the next interview. Bye for now.